Welcome back to Untested Builds, where we figure out how to play your favorite fictional characters in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Comment below to suggest future builds and subscribe to be notified whenever we post a new video. Today we're continuing our original goal on the channel to create a Pathfinder build for every League of Legends champion. This time we're covering Rammus, the Armadillo. When I was preparing this build, I realized that Rammus is basically the Shreeman version of Braum. They are both legendary, nigh indestructible figures with unknown pasts who travel the land saving people and giving hope to their respective regions. The main difference is, while Braum protects people directly with his shield, Rammus just rolls around at the speed of sound, destroying everything that threatens his people before disappearing back over the sand dunes on the horizon. For our goals for this build, we gotta go fast. We're basically a sonic spinball covered in spikes, meaning we're actually gonna have more in common with an actual hedgehog than Sonic. But we're not a hedgehog, we're the Armadillo, so we're gonna maximize our armor class as much as we can as well. Lastly, we're connected to the land, not just spiritually, but literally. The earth fights alongside us, bringing stones down on our enemies, whipping up sandstorms around us, and quaking beneath our feet. We'll kick this off as an Uruxi, specifically a Sandstrider lizardfolk, giving boosts to strength and wisdom with a flaw to intelligence and a free boost that we'll take in constitution. Aquatic adaptation gives us the breath control feat for free, meaning we can hold our breath 25 times as long without suffocating and gain a +1 circumstance bonus to inhaled threats and gain a critical success instead of a normal success against such effects. We gain an unarmed claw attack for 1d4 slashing damage with the agile and finesse traits, and Sandstrider Uruxi specifically gain fire resistance equal to half their level. We also treat environmental heat effects as one step less extreme, and we can go 10 times longer before we succumb to thirst or starvation. But we treat environmental cold effects as one step more extreme. We'll take the Nomad background for boost to Constitution and Dexterity, training in Survival and Desert lore, as well as the Assurance feat in Survival for free, meaning we have the option to forego the die roll for a skill check in Survival for a flat +10 bonus to our proficiency instead. We're going to lock in as a Barbarian because everyone knows that angry boys make the best quick boys. Level 1 Barbarians gain a boost to Strength, and we also get access to the Rage feature. At the cost of 1 action, we can enter a rage and gain temporary hit points equal to our Constitution modifier plus our level for 1 minute. While in a rage, we have 2 additional damage with our melee weapons and unarmed attacks. We take a -1 penalty to AC, and we can't use any actions with the concentrate trait unless they also have the rage trait. After we stop, we lose our temporary hit points and we cannot rage again for 1 minute. We also get to choose an instinct to determine the source of our rage. We didn't go Animal Instinct because we already gained claw attacks from our class feature, and the other instincts don't really make much sense, so we're taking Fury. Doing so gives us access to an extra level 1 Barbarian feat. Moment of Clarity allows us to put our rage on hold for a moment. With this, until the end of the turn, we can use actions with the Concentrate trait even if those actions don't have the Rage trait. Sudden Charge is the first version of Rammus's Q. With this, we stride twice, and then at the end of our movement, if we're in melee range of at least one enemy, we can make a strike against that enemy. We can also use this while we're burrowing, climbing, flying, or swimming instead of striding, but we won't be getting those move types, so it's not very relevant. For skill training, we only get 2, Acrobatics and Nature, and for ability boost, we'll increase Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, and Wisdom. If the legends are to be believed, Rammus could be one of the most ancient members of an elite group called the Ascended, meaning we can think of his millennia spent alone in the desert as a form of meditation. The Monk dedication gives us access to powerful fists, increasing the damage of our unarmed fist attacks from 1d4 to 1d6. Thanks to our Razor Claws, we already have a 1d6 unarmed attack, but thanks to this, we no longer take the -2 circumstance penalty for making a lethal unarmed attack. We'll also gain skill training that we'll take in Medicine. Terrain Expertise allows us to choose a specific type of environment, and we gain a +1 circumstance bonus to survival checks while we're in that type of terrain. We're going to go with Desert, obviously. Level 3 Barbarians gain Deny Advantage, meaning we aren't flat-footed to hidden, undetected, or flanking creatures of our level or lower, or to creatures our level or lower using Surprise Attack. We'll take the General feat Adopted Ancestry so that we can now select Ancestry feats from another Ancestry. We're going to select Dwarf for reasons that will become apparent soon. For our skill increase, we'll become an expert in athletics. At level 4, we'll take the best feat in the game, Battle Medicine. This allows us to make a medicine check similar to Treat Wounds to restore a corresponding amount of HP. We can even do this while in combat, but once we do so, the target of our Battle Medicine becomes immune for 1 day. We'll pick up some basic kata for a level 1 or 2 monk feat. Mountain Stance allows us to become an implacable mountain. While we're unarmored and touching the ground, we can enter this stance to gain a +4 status bonus to AC and a +2 circumstance bonus to any defenses against being shoved or tripped. However, our dexterity modifier is capped at +0, meaning we don't add our dexterity to our AC at all, and all of our speeds are reduced by 5. This is basically our W, defensive ball, curl, and spike shell are passive at the same time. However, while we're in this stance, we can only use Falling Stone unarmed attacks, but that's not too much of a deal breaker. After all, these deal 1d8 bludgeoning damage and have the forceful trait as well, meaning our strikes deal more damage the more times we strike in a round. On the second attack, we gain a circumstance bonus equal to the number of weapon damage dice, and on each subsequent attack, we gain a circumstance bonus equal to double the number of weapon damage dice. Level 5 barbarians get critical brutality, meaning the proficiency ranks for simple, martial, and unarmed attacks increase to expert, and while raging, we gain the critical specialization effects for melee weapons and unarmed attacks. Since all of our attacks are going to be in the brawling group, the target must succeed at a Fortitude save or be slowed 1 until the end of our next turn. The Rock Runner Ancestry feat is mostly a prerequisite for later feats down the line, but it does give us a couple useful abilities. Firstly, we can ignore difficult terrain caused by rubble or uneven ground made of stone or earth. In addition, when we use the acrobatic skill to balance on narrow surfaces or uneven ground made of stone or earth, you also aren't flat-footed, and you roll a success at one of these acrobatic checks, you get a critical success instead. With that in mind, we'll use our skill increase for expert acrobatics proficiency, and for our ability boost, we'll increase strength, constitution, dexterity, and wisdom. At level 6, we'll take the other half of our defensive ball curl with the attack of opportunity class feat. As a reaction, whenever a creature in our reach uses a manipulate action, move action, makes a ranged attack, or leaves a square during a move action it's using, we can make a strike against that creature. And if our attack is a critical hit and the trigger was a manipulate action, we disrupt that action entirely. The strike doesn't count towards our multiple attack penalty, and our multiple attack penalty doesn't apply to this strike. We'll also take the natural medicine skill, meaning we can now use our nature skill instead of our medicine skill for treat wounds. And if we're in the wilderness, we can even gain a +2 circumstance bonus to that treat wounds action at the GM's discretion. Level 7 barbarians gain weapon specialization for an additional 6 flat damage on our unarmed strikes thanks to our fury instinct and our expert weapons proficiency. Juggernaut increases our fortitude saves to master. In addition, when we roll a fortitude save and get a success, we get a critical success instead. The Fleet General feat gives us an extra 5 feet of movement speed for better sonic spin balls. For our skill increase, we'll become a master in athletics. At level 8, we're getting even faster with the fast movement class feat. With this, we gain a +10 status bonus to our speed while we're raging. For our skill feat, we'll take Godless Healing, so now we heal an additional 5 points on our treat wounds or battle medicine checks. In addition, whenever we use battle medicine, the target is only immune for 1 hour instead of 1 day. Level 9 barbarians gain raging resistance, allowing us to gain a resistance type based on our instinct. For the Fury Instinct, we gain 3+ our Constitution modifier to all physical weapon damage while we are raging. Lightning Reflexes increases our reflex proficiency to expert. The Boulder Roll Ancestry feat allows us to take a step into a square of a foe of our size or smaller, and that foe must move into the empty space directly behind it. Even if doing so will put them in harm's way. They can, however, attempt a Fortitude saving throw against our Athletics DC to block our step. If they do so, and unless they critically succeed, they will take bludgeoning damage equal to our level plus our strength modifier. For our skill increase, we'll become a master in acrobatics. At level 10, we'll unlock the full potential of our Powerball. The Furious Sprint feat allows us to stride up to 5 times at our speed in a straight line, but we can increase the number of actions this activity takes to 3 to stride up to 8 times in our speed at a straight line instead. The Kip Up feat allows us to stand from prone without triggering reactions as a free action. For our ability boost, we'll increase strength, dexterity, constitution, and wisdom. Level 11 barbarians gain Mighty Rage, meaning whenever we enter a rage on our turn, we can use a free action to use a single action activity with the rage trait. Alternatively, if we can increase the number of actions it takes to enter our rage to 2 to instead use a 2 action activity with the rage trait. Now we don't have to sacrifice using our sudden charge if we want to also use our boulder roll in a turn. The Toughness feat gives us a little bit more tankiness. This increases our maximum hit points by our level, and it also reduces the DC of our recovery checks from 10+ our dying condition value to only 9+. For our skill increase, we'll become an expert in survival. We'll pick up some advanced kata with Mountain Stronghold. Now whenever we're in our mountain stance, we can spend an action to gain a +2 circumstance bonus to AC until the beginning of our next turn. Also, while we're in this stance, we can now have a +1 dexterity modifier to our AC instead of +0. The Titan Wrestler feat allows us to disarm, grapple, shove, or trip creatures up to 2 sizes larger than us, or up to 3 sizes larger once we become legendary. However, unfortunately, this does not work with our Boulder roll. Level 13 Barbarians gain Weapon Fury, increasing our simple and martial weapons and unarmed attacks to Master. We also gain Medium Armor Expertise, which increases our light, medium, and unarmored defense to Expert. We won't be using any armor because we have to stay unarmored for Mountain Stance. Greater Juggernaut increases our Fortitude save to Legendary, and when we roll a critical failure on a Fortitude save, we get a regular failure instead. And when we roll a failure on a Fortitude save against an effect that deals damage, we halve the damage that we take. The Telluric Power Ancestry feat gives us extra damage on our melee strikes as long as we are on the same ground or stone surface as our opponents. The bonus is equal to the number of weapon damage dice on our attack. We'll use our skill increase to become a master in survival. At level 14, we'll get as close as we can to Rammus's frenzying taunt with the Come and Get Me feat. Once we activate this, until the end of our rage, we are flat-footed, and damage rolls against us gain a +2 circumstance bonus. However, if a creature hits us, that creature is flat-footed to us until our next turn, and if we hit it before our next turn, we gain temporary HP equal to our Constitution modifier, or double that on a critical hit. These temporary hit points last until the end of our rage like normal. We'll pick up another instance of Assurance, this time for Athletics, so that we can forgo the roll for a +10 bonus to those checks as well. Level 15 Barbarians gain Indomitable Will, meaning our proficiency rank for will saves increases to Master, and whenever we roll a success on a will save, we get a critical success instead. Greater Weapon Specialization increases the flat damage we take from Weapon Specialization up to 12 damage instead thanks to our Fury Instinct. Untrained Improvisation gives us a proficiency bonus equal to our level for all skills in which we are not trained. However, this does not allow us to use that skill's trained actions. We'll use our skill increase for Legendary Athletics, and we'll use our ability boost to increase Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, and Wisdom. At level 16, better late than never, we'll take Monk's Flurry for Flurry of Blows. This allows us to spend an action to make 2 unarmed strikes, and if both hit the same creature, we combine their damages for the purposes of meeting resistances and weaknesses. We do apply our multiple attack penalty to both of the strikes as normal, and we can only use this once per turn. Planar Survival allows us to subsist even on different planes, meaning we don't need to worry about any resources or natural phenomena when visiting other planes. I'm not sure if Rammus has ever been to the Void, but something tells me he'd be okay there anyway. Level 17 Barbarians gain Quick Rage, meaning we can rage again after waiting a full turn without raging instead of spending 1 minute. Heightened Senses increases our proficiency rank for Perception to Master. Mountain Stoutness gives us an extra dose of the Toughness feat. With this, we increase our maximum hit points by our level again, and now the DC of our dying checks goes down to 6+ our dying condition value instead of 9+. For our skill increase, we'll become Legendary in Acrobatics. At level 18, we'll take the Catfall feat so that we can hit the ground running. Since we're Legendary in Acrobatics, we no longer take fall damage. We'll take the Perfection's Path class feat in order to become a master in reflex saves. Level 19 Barbarians gain Devastating Strikes, meaning now our strikes ignore 10 points of a creature's resistance to physical damage, and we increase our Barbarian class DC to Master. We also get Armor of Fury, meaning our light armor, medium armor, and unarmored defense increases to Master while we are raging. The Die Hard feat allows us to die at dying 5 rather than dying 4, which is going to be pretty helpful if you're supposed to be an immortal. We'll use our skill increase for Legendary Survival. At level 20, we'll take the Legendary Survivalist feat so that we can ignore almost all of the survival mechanics in the game. Basically, the only reason to ever become Legendary in Survival is so that you don't have to learn how to become Legendary in Survival. For our Capstone feat, we'll finally get Rammus's ultimate, taking the Quaking Stomp feat. Once per 10 minutes while we're raging, we can cast the Earthquake spell with our foot. This ability replicates a level 8 spell, which has a variety of effects within a 60-foot burst lasting for 1 round. The first thing that happens is the ground starts to shake, becoming difficult terrain, and creatures on it take a -2 circumstance penalty to attack rolls, AC, and skill checks. Next, fissures open up, and each creature in the area must attempt a reflex save at the start of their turn to keep their footing and avoid falling into the 40-foot deep fissures that open beneath it. The fissures are permanent, and their sides require a DC 15 athletics check to climb. You also have to consider collapsing structures. The GM rolls a flat check for each structure in the area. Different structures require different checks, But any creature caught in the collapse must make a reflex save, and failing, they take 11d6 bludgeoning damage. On a critical success, they take half the damage. On a success, they take half the damage and fall prone. On a failure, they take full collapse damage and fall prone. And on a critical failure, they take full collapse damage and they fall into a fissure. For our final ability score improvements, we'll increase dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Since we have an extra level of intelligence now, we'll take our skill training in intimidation. Now that we're level 20, let's look at the pros and cons of this build. With a whopping 388 HP and the ability to increase our 41 AC of unarmored defense up to 43 with our mountain stance, this is one of the beefiest builds we've ever made. But it's not just about taking damage, we're also dealing a lot of damage as well. If we don't mind sacrificing a bit of AC to go into our rage, we can deal a whole lot of damage and remain in our stances, so we can deal those 1d8 falling stone strikes as well as applying our weapon specialization the entire time. And as anyone who's ever played a barbarian knows, we have the best mobility in the game, barring people with crazy teleportation and flying abilities. We can go over any kind of difficult terrain we want to, almost as easily as normal walking, and any sort of structures can easily be climbed over with our insane athletics DC. For cons, we run up into the action economy a lot more than normal in this build. Almost all of our worthwhile abilities are 2 action abilities, so we're going to have to pick and choose what we need at any given moment, which might take you a bit out of the Rammus barbarian flavor. With no charisma modifier and a negative intelligence modifier for 19 levels, unless you are playing a solo campaign roaming through the desert, you're gonna run into a lot of difficulties when it comes to social encounters. So hopefully you have a party to back you up when you need it. Also, while we do have quite a bit of damage as just being a natural barbarian, we do lose out on quite a bit of damage compared to traditional weapon wielding barbarians. So don't compare your damage just as much to them, but you also have a lot more defense on your side. Remember, you're the tank on the team. Get in there, taunt your enemy, do the gank, and then get out. It's that simple. Thanks for tuning in to yet another video. I want to give a special thank you to my patrons, especially those in my alpha tester tier, Michelle Wilson and Decaffeinate. Your generous support helps inspire me to create the best content I can on this platform. Thanks to everyone for helping me decide on what to build next. If you join the Patreon right now, we do have a special Halloween themed poll with 4 witches. You can choose between Scarlet Witch from Marvel Comics, Winifred Sanderson from Hocus Pocus, Sabrina Spellman from The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, or Raven from DC Comics. If you liked what you saw here, why don't you go ahead and give the video a like and maybe even subscribe too if you haven't already. See you again next week.